What's up guys, it's Will back again, and today's review is Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is a fantasy adventure film that was directed by David Yates and is a Harry Potter spin-off that more specifically is based on the 2001 book also called Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, written by J.K. Rowling. Okay, so Fantastic Beasts takes place in 1926 New York City and primarily follows Newt Scamander, an eccentric wizard played by Eddie Redmayne that travels to New York for reasons that have to do with some creatures that live inside his magical briefcase. Well, once he arrives to New York, some of these magical, dangerous, and often misunderstood creatures escape from this briefcase and they start causing quite a bit of chaos around the city. Eventually, Newt's interests are aligned with three other key characters: Jacob Kowalski, a muggle or no-mage played by Dan Fogler, and two sister wizards, Porpentina or Tina for short played by Katherine Waterston, and Queenie played by Alison Sudol, who all attempt to help Newt recover his creatures and return them back to the briefcase safe and sound. And the rest of the film is spent primarily with this core cast of four characters as they attempt to return these fantastic beasts back to their briefcase home, while also attempting to deal with the Magical Congress of the United States of America, or MACUSA, who are attempting to bring these four to justice for the chaos they've caused. Okay, so I'm gonna be completely honest right off the bat here. Small disclaimer, I'm not a huge Harry Potter fan like most. I enjoyed most of the Harry Potter films, I thought they were pretty decent, but I don't love any of them besides the Deathly Hallows Part 2. So I didn't go into this movie with super high expectations because it looked like it was gonna try and replicate that Harry Potter style that most know and love, especially the book readers. But to be honest, and I know some of you are going to be really upset with me for saying this, but Fantastic Beasts is a very average film at best with a lot of problems. To me, Fantastic Beasts is a more flawed version of a Harry Potter film with far less compelling characters. Like I said, you really have four characters that get the vast majority of the screen time in this one, and the sad thing is, the one with no magical abilities whatsoever was the most interesting one out of the whole group. I actually really enjoyed Dan Fogler's work as Jacob Kowalski because he brought some much needed humor to what at times can be a pretty stiff film. But he's not only funny, he also showed off his drama skills as well by delivering some powerful acting in crucial scenes. Eddie Redmayne, who is truly a great actor, was pretty meh in this movie. His character Newt really is mostly pretty bland and dry, and I don't solely lay the blame at his feet for that, but his performance wasn't quite at the level I hoped it would be either. I don't know if you all experienced the same thing as me, but there were several instances where I had a pretty difficult time understanding what he was even saying. It felt like he was still playing young Stephen Hawking or something, and it frustrated me because he was mumbling and speaking very softly, which resulted in me not really being able to hear or understand his lines he was delivering. He wasn't terrible, let me just clarify that, but he wasn't as good as he usually is in other films either. I actually enjoyed the acting performance of Alison Sudol because she was actually eccentric in a fun and likable way. Her sister Tina, played by Katherine Waterston, however, was quite the opposite. She and Newt to me are like the co-leads of this film, and they were both pretty uninteresting for the majority of it, which is a problem. Tina's a fellow wizard who's had a rough go and wants to redeem herself by helping Newt recapture his magical creatures, and I liked her motivation behind helping Newt, but I will say that the way the characters come together at times can tend to feel pretty flimsy. I mean, even some of the key plot points that drive the story forward aren't really consistent because the driving force of the plot is the creatures escaping from the briefcase without Newt even really noticing at first. But how are they just able to do this now? They've been in that case for how long and they just now escaped how? And then Newt recaptures some of them, doesn't change a single factor to his approach, and they don't come anywhere close to escaping again. The answer to these questions seems to be, well, because, you know, magic, but magic can't always be the answer to the filmmaker's problems when they write themselves into a corner. I actually should mention the other two key characters in the film that don't get a ton of screen time but still play important roles, and that's Percival Graves, played by Colin Farrell, and Credence Barebone, played by Ezra Miller. Graves is sort of the villain of this story, if it even has one, and he does okay in limited screen time, but there's nothing all that interesting about his character either. He's well acted though, I will say that. And Ezra Miller's character Credence also feels pretty silly. He's an adopted child that's abused by his mother, and while he's acted pretty well, the character once again is just bland. One other complaint I have about this film is the CGI in certain spots. To be honest, I thought this film actually seemed like a step backwards in terms of how the CGI creatures looked on screen. Not a step backwards in terms of how Harry Potter films previously looked, but just the industry standard for 2016 films. And one last complaint I have is the pacing. I think there's just way too much going on in this movie because it's trying to lay the foundation for a 5-film franchise. In that way, it sort of felt like Batman v Superman in that it's just crammed with all these characters and events that feel like they're setting the stage for something much bigger and more exciting. You jump from here to there to here to there, and eventually it became pretty frustrating for me because I failed to see how a lot of these events really served any significant significant purpose to the story being told in this film. Okay, so let's move on to some things I did like about Fantastic Beasts. Well, firstly, I really enjoyed the music. I think James Newton Howard once again knocked this one out of the park because he delivered a beautiful score that really enhanced the on-screen action quite nicely. I also enjoyed the climax and ending of the film. I think the ending vindicated Fantastic Beasts somewhat of the previous two acts that can definitely be fun, but they can also be pretty frustrating. But the climax was loud and action-packed and exciting, and all the things I hoped the rest of the movie would at least give you a little taste of, but didn't. I also really enjoyed the sound design. Good sound in a movie can make a world of difference because it can greatly increase that immersion factor I always discuss. It makes you feel as if you're right there witnessing these magical events take place firsthand, almost as if you're an invisible spectator standing right next to the characters. And finally, I think Fantastic Beasts has some very nicely written dialogue. While I didn't always love the characters themselves, I did enjoy the way they interacted with one another because it felt true to their identities for the most part. There's a small dose of humor, some drama, and even some interactions that got pretty emotional, which I thought was a nice change of pace. But as a whole, I was slightly disappointed with Fantastic Beasts, but it's not a complete disaster or anything. I did think it had great music, a very strong climax and ending, awesome sound design, and very well written dialogue. Sadly, I also felt the acting and characters were pretty underwhelming. The story is full of inconsistencies and felt crowded. The CGI work is below average, and the pacing is pretty messy. I'm still going to give Fantastic Beasts a 7 out of 10 and recommend that Harry Potter fans go see this one in theaters. If you're not a huge Harry Potter fan, I think you can pass on this one. So as we conclude this video, I just want to make something clear. If you loved every single one of the Harry Potter films, or if you've read all the books and you're just a huge fan of this world J.K. Rowling has created, you're probably going to enjoy Fantastic Beasts. If you're just a so-so fan of the Harry Potter films, you may find yourself somewhere between mildly satisfied to slightly disappointed with Fantastic Beasts. So did you guys see Fantastic Beasts and where to find them yet? What did you think of it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if not, let me know whether you'd be interested in watching this film or not. And as always, if you like this video, click that like button and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for much more content like this. That's all for now though. This is WillFoxification signing off. See you in the next review.